Ramadan is a time of reflection, discipline, and personal growth, a perfect moment to revisit the profound wisdom of Al-Fārābī, one of the greatest Islamic philosophers of the medieval era. His teachings on ethics, knowledge, and the ideal society provide deep insights into how we can use Ramadan as a transformative period for both the self and the community. 1. The pursuit of wisdom and self-discipline. Al-Fārābī believed that true happiness stems from wisdom and self-control. Ramadan embodies this philosophy, requiring restraint from desires and distractions. Through fasting, we cultivate inner discipline, mirroring Al-Fārābī's idea that the highest form of human fulfillment comes from intellectual and moral refinement. He emphasized that reason should govern our actions, something that resonates with the self-restraint observed during Ramadan. The process of fasting is not merely abstaining from food and drink but also from negative behaviors such as anger, gossip, and selfishness. Al-Fārābī's concept of virtue is deeply tied to the idea that self-mastery leads to a higher state of existence. He argued that by overcoming physical desires and impulses, individuals can access a more rational and enlightened state. This is precisely the goal of Ramadan, to attain a heightened sense of self-awareness and divine consciousness. Moreover, Al-Fārābī taught that the wise person constantly seeks improvement. Ramadan serves as a structured period of self-improvement, where individuals not only refrain from indulgences but also engage in acts of self-purification. By practicing patience, gratitude, and humility, one moves closer to Al-Fārābī's ideal of the virtuous human being. 2. The harmonious society and the role of virtue. Al-Fārābī envisioned an ideal society governed by justice and virtue, led by philosopher kings who embodied wisdom and moral excellence. He argued that the best leaders are those who prioritize the well-being of their people over personal gain. During Ramadan, we are reminded of our social responsibilities, generosity, compassion, and fairness. Just as Al-Fārābī saw virtue as the foundation of a thriving society, Ramadan teaches us that a community's strength lies in its collective moral integrity. Zakat, charitable giving, is one of the pillars of Islam, and its significance is heightened during Ramadan. Al-Fārābī's notion of the virtuous city, Madinat al-Fila, aligns with this principle. He believed that a society flourishes when its members actively care for one another. The idea of helping the less fortunate is not just a social duty but a philosophical necessity for a just and balanced community. Additionally, Al-Fārābī's classification of societies, ranging from virtuous to ignorant and corrupt, can be applied to how we perceive communities today. Ramadan is a test of our ability to contribute to a virtuous society. Are we actively engaging in acts of kindness and support, or are we indifferent to the struggles of others? By embracing the principles of charity, empathy, and justice, we participate in shaping a society that aligns with Al-Fārābī's vision of ethical governance. 3. The elevation of the soul through knowledge. Knowledge, according to Al-Fārābī, is the key to both personal and societal progress. He saw the pursuit of wisdom as the highest goal of humanity. Ramadan is not just about abstaining from food but about feeding the mind and soul with knowledge and reflection. Engaging with the Quran, contemplating philosophical and ethical questions, and seeking wisdom are ways to elevate the soul in line with Al-Fārābī's teachings. He categorized knowledge into theoretical and practical wisdom. Theoretical wisdom involves understanding universal truths, while practical wisdom is about applying ethical principles in daily life. Ramadan offers an opportunity to balance both. Through prayer and study, we seek theoretical wisdom, and through acts of kindness, self-discipline, and ethical behavior, we practice practical wisdom. Al-Fārābī also emphasized the importance of surrounding oneself with virtuous and knowledgeable individuals. Ramadan is a time for gathering in spiritual and intellectual discourse, whether through family discussions, community iftars, or religious lectures. Just as Al-Farabi believed that a philosopher's growth depends on a supportive intellectual environment, our spiritual growth during Ramadan is enhanced by the company of those who inspire us toward goodness. 4. The connection between ethics and spirituality. Al-Farabi argued that ethics and spirituality are intertwined. One cannot achieve true knowledge without moral virtue. Ramadan reinforces this by demanding sincerity in both action and intention. It is a time for self-examination, ensuring that our deeds align with our spiritual goals, much like Al-Farabi's emphasis on the philosopher's journey toward enlightenment. During Ramadan, we engage in deep moral introspection, questioning our intentions and behaviors. Are our acts of worship genuine, or are they performed out of routine? Are we truly embodying patience and humility, or are we simply enduring hunger? Al-Farabi's view of virtue insists on internal transformation rather than superficial adherence to rules. He saw true virtue as the natural inclination of a refined soul, not just an obligation imposed from outside. This connects with the concept of ihsan in Islam, worshipping Allah as if we see Him, or at the very least, being aware that He sees us. This heightened consciousness of God's presence aligns with Al-Farabi's philosophy of constant self-improvement and ethical living. By refining our characters during Ramadan, we move closer to this ideal. 5. The role of music and contemplation in spiritual life. Interestingly, Al-Farabi wrote extensively about the power of music in shaping the soul and elevating human emotions. While Ramadan encourages solemnity, it also promotes reflection through beauty, whether in recitations, poetry, or silence. Contemplation, as he taught, refines the mind and deepens our connection to the divine. For Al-Farabi, music had a direct impact on moral and intellectual development. Different melodies could induce different emotional and psychological states. During Ramadan, this can be seen in the beauty of Quranic recitation, which carries an emotional and spiritual depth that moves the listener's soul. The rhythm and melody of the recitation are not just aesthetic but serve to enhance comprehension and reflection. In addition, silence and solitude play an essential role in both Al-Farabi's thought and Ramadan. The pre-dawn hours of suhoor and the quiet moments of tahajjud, late-night prayers, provide the perfect setting for deep reflection. Just as Al-Farabi emphasized contemplation as a means of intellectual elevation, Ramadan offers structured moments to pause, meditate, and reconnect with higher truths. 6. Fasting as a path to intellectual and spiritual liberation. Al-Farabi saw human potential as a continuous journey toward higher understanding. Ramadan acts as a catalyst in this journey by liberating the soul from worldly distractions. Through fasting, we break free from habitual indulgences and reorient our focus toward what truly matters. Fasting also sharpens the intellect. By stepping away from material excesses, we gain mental clarity, making it easier to engage in deep thought and spiritual reflection. Al-Farabi emphasized the necessity of a disciplined lifestyle for intellectual pursuits. In his view, a mind distracted by desires cannot attain wisdom. Ramadan's practice of fasting supports this notion by training the mind to focus on higher goals rather than fleeting pleasures. 7. The concept of the rational soul and spiritual growth. Al-Farabi's philosophy is deeply rooted in the idea that the rational soul is the highest faculty of human existence. He categorized the soul into three parts: the vegetative, concerned with survival; the sensitive, dealing with emotions and desires; and the rational, the source of intellect and wisdom. According to him, true fulfillment comes from developing the rational soul, which aligns closely with the goals of Ramadan. Fasting is not merely about physical restraint, it is a means to strengthen the rational soul by curbing the lower faculties. When we fast, we experience hunger and thirst, yet we train ourselves to prioritize patience and self-control over immediate gratification. This practice mirrors Al-Farabi's belief that intellectual and spiritual growth requires overcoming base desires. Additionally, the Quran repeatedly encourages the use of reason and reflection, qualities that Al-Farabi saw as essential to human excellence. Ramadan, with its emphasis on prayer, contemplation, and recitation of the Quran, provides the perfect environment for nurturing the rational soul. By engaging in acts of worship with mindfulness, we embody Al-Farabi's vision of a disciplined intellect leading to spiritual enlightenment. 8. The role of leadership and ethical governance during Ramadan. Al-Farabi's vision of an ideal society was heavily influenced by Plato's concept of the philosopher king. He believed that the best rulers were not those who sought power for personal gain but those who possessed wisdom, justice, and moral integrity. This concept is highly relevant during Ramadan, a time when leadership, both personal and communal, takes on profound significance. In family settings, workplaces, and religious communities, Ramadan brings opportunities for ethical leadership. Just as Al-Farabi stressed the need for just rulers to guide society toward virtue, Ramadan encourages us to lead by example through kindness, patience, and generosity. Whether it's organizing community iftars, providing food for the less fortunate, or simply displaying exemplary character, the principles of ethical leadership are put into practice during this month. Furthermore, the obligation of zakat, charitable giving, and sadaqah, voluntary charity, in Ramadan highlights the ethical responsibilities of those in privileged positions. Al-Farabi argued that a just leader must ensure the well-being of all members of society, particularly the vulnerable. By redistributing wealth and supporting the needy, we actively participate in shaping a more just and harmonious community, one that aligns with his philosophical ideals. 9. The balance between knowledge and action in Ramadan. One of Al-Farabi's most significant contributions to philosophy is his emphasis on balancing theoretical and practical knowledge. He argued that intellectual pursuits should not exist in isolation but must be applied to real-life ethical behavior. This perspective is particularly relevant in Ramadan, where the goal is not just to learn but to embody wisdom through action. Many people use Ramadan as an opportunity to deepen their understanding of Islamic teachings, reading religious texts, and attending lectures. However, the true essence of this month lies in translating that knowledge into daily conduct. Fasting teaches empathy by making us experience the struggles of the poor, but it is only through acts of generosity that this lesson is truly realized. Al-Farabi emphasized the importance of wisdom in action, stating that knowledge without ethical practice is incomplete. This Ramadan, we are reminded that self-improvement is not just about absorbing information but about refining our character and influencing the world around us positively. By integrating knowledge with ethical deeds, we fulfill both the intellectual and moral dimensions of Al-Farabi's philosophy. 10. The higher purpose of Ramadan, preparing for a virtuous life. Ramadan is often seen as a temporary period of heightened spirituality, but Al-Farabi's teachings remind us that its lessons should extend beyond the month itself. His philosophy underscores the idea that virtue is not a one-time achievement but a lifelong pursuit. Just as Al-Farabi saw the virtuous life as a continuous journey toward wisdom and self-perfection, Ramadan serves as an annual checkpoint for evaluating our moral and spiritual progress. It is a time to break bad habits, cultivate discipline, and strengthen our connection with God, but the true test lies in maintaining these improvements once the month ends. The transition from Ramadan to daily life mirrors Al-Farabi's idea that intellectual and ethical refinement should be an ongoing process. If we approach each day with the same mindfulness, generosity, and self-discipline cultivated during Ramadan, we move closer to his vision of the ideal human being, one who strives for wisdom, justice, and spiritual fulfillment in every aspect of life. Conclusion. Al-Farabi's lessons on wisdom, virtue, and the ideal society beautifully complement the spiritual and moral teachings of Ramadan. By practicing self-discipline, seeking knowledge, and fostering community harmony, we honor both his philosophy and the deeper purpose of this sacred month. In doing so, we transform not only ourselves but also the world around us, one thoughtful, intentional act at a time. Ramadan is not merely a ritual but an opportunity to refine the self in accordance with the highest philosophical and spiritual ideals. If we integrate Al-Farabi's insights into our Ramadan practice, we can emerge from this holy month with a renewed sense of purpose, wisdom, and a commitment to ethical living that extends far beyond the final fast.